James.
Raf.
Okay, be honest. Would you rather order from a person or a QR code on your phone? Honest, I said be honest.
That's a great question. I prefer to order on QR codes. It really depends on the venue. I like going up to the bar at the pub.
Yeah.
Like that's just what I like doing. It also depends on the culture. Like one of my locals is the Erskineville Hotel, and I go to the Erskineville Hotel, and they use Me and You, which is like the which we'll talk about in this episode. It's like one of the big QR code ordering software, and they've integrated it so tightly that people just don't really go up to the bar there anymore. So when you do, the people that are there kind of look at you like, couldn't you have just used the thing? They don't say it, but like the vibe is like, what are you doing here? So it kind of depends on the venue a bit, and like, but I like going up to get beers.
Yeah.
That's just like part of my culture.
Yeah, I understand. People say white people have no culture.
It's getting up for no reason to go to the bar, not talk to the bartender with anything interesting.
No, just a couple words here and there.
Just be like, yeah, but just 3 pale ales, thanks. Yeah, schooners.
Yeah.
Card.
Yeah.
You know, that's all it is. But
are you doing? Is is the kitchen open? Oh no. Okay. What time's it close? Okay. What's your favorite thing from the menu? No, I wouldn't go that far.
You would never ask that. That doesn't just like you had 2 heads.
I agree. I want the option. I want the option to do either. There are certain places or certain conversations maybe or certain days where I don't want to leave the table that I'm at. There are other where, I like the ritual of going to the bar.
Yeah.
Making small talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Not so much a quip or two. No one wants a conversation.
No, you don't want to do that. No. But like, just a little bit of a funny thing. Maybe the guy in front of you was like a little bit weird and you just go like...
a bit of an eyebrow raise. Shared human experience, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that through a bloody app.
Maybe we will be the last generation to order at a bar.
That'd be sad.
I mean, the Zoomers would know it. Like, they would have witnessed it. But I reckon a Zoomer would be much more likely to QR it regardless.
No, totally. Because they're all used to bloody Snapchat and what have you.
The flip side is there are some venues who or will literally just be like, no, like order on the app. Like, we ain't taking orders. It's QR code only for ordering.
You do see a few of them like that. Here's another thing you miss out on when you – a little bit of social ritual you miss out on when it comes to like using a QR code app at a pub especially. You know, when you go to like – it's normally kind of like a big beer barn kind of vibe where they just have an insane number of beers on tap. But not because they're like all craft beers or whatever. They just like have everything for some reason.
Yeah.
And like you look at the taps that are in front of you and like you kind of have the shit ones.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, God.
And you're like, oh – well, and
then you notice.
You have to walk all the way around to see what the hell in the other taps.
I often have that like a sense of dread. I go up and I'm like, nope, oh, God. And then I'm like, oh, thank God, there's another
one. Oh, they got Reshes.
Bunch of taps. Not for me. Reshes is what I'll drink if I have to drink one of those.
It is one of those beers, yeah.
I did do some research.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't explicitly for this episode. This was actually like a couple of months ago. I just making some conversation with someone at the bar, someone serving at the bar, a worker. And I asked, what do you prefer? Like, do you prefer if I use the app? What does the bartender prefer? And they said the one good thing about the apps is more tips. Because, the apps kind of push the tips in front of you.
They do, yeah.
And nowadays, because everyone uses card, no one tips anymore at bars because obviously, like, they just punch it into the frigging thing, you tap your phone, and that's it. You don't really even have an opportunity to leave a tip.
Yeah.
Whereas in the apps, like, people will leave tips in the apps. But she also was like, part of the reason of becoming a bartender rather than like a box packer or whatever at Amazon is for the social interaction and, the environment and blah, blah, blah. And it does feel a bit like being a bot because it's just a computer kind of spitting out orders and then you delivering and back, and you don't really have that interaction. It's kind of more like mechanized.
That's sad.
Damn.
Maybe they should introduce kind of like a little video chat functionality into the app. So you scan it, you pick your meal, you pick the drink you want. I'm just thinking customer flow, UX.
Yeah.
You tap sell. And then before it gets to like the payment screen where you like do your Face ID for Apple Pay or whatever, video screen throws up, immediately connects to a camera that's behind the bar, and the bartender just like nods at you. I goes, "Yep,
Good choice.
yep." What's up? What's up? Yep.
Sorry, mate. Did you say the Stonewood, right?
Starwood? Yeah. No, I was actually. You go, actually, no, it was the Filter XPA.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh,
mate.
sorry, mate. Yeah. And then the screen goes away and you pay. How about that?
Yeah, more of a better experience for sure.
Anyway, so that was a very long rambling way to get into it, but we are talking about the QR code menus, which you are no doubt aware of.
Yeah.
You see them everywhere now.
Yeah.
Real COVID era innovation.
Yeah.
But it does actually come from what we were talking about the other week when we were talking about the Everything app, because the first markets that really started to do this were the ones that had sort of like the countries like China, where they had WePay, Alipay, WeChat payments, which they were using for scanning QR codes to pay for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But naturally, you got into the restaurant world, and there were a few attempts to make it work pre-COVID, like in Australia.
Yeah, I remember trying to use it at a Japanese restaurant because it was one of those places where, again, they're like, we don't take orders, like, use the QR code. And I'm like, what the devil is this?
This country's gone to the bloody dogs. But the Japanese, like the iPad ones, those are good.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't the iPad one. The iPad ones are good. I guess it was almost like a way to save money as a Japanese restaurant by having a QR code rather than the screen itself.
Yeah.
Those screen things were great.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah,
I'd rather use someone else's dirty screen.
They still have them. I went to a Japanese place the other night where they have the screen. You just keep whacking that
Sapporo.
Give me some more Sapporos, yeah. But obviously it went off during COVID.
Yeah.
Because social distancing, things like that. Well, there were kind of two sides of it. One, lots of businesses went delivery that didn't have delivery before. Like, there were lots of pubs and what have you that never did Uber Eats, but started doing something during the pandemic, during lockdowns, because they could.
Well, they had to get online, had to get the menu online. It wasn't just a PDF anymore.
It wasn't just a PDF. It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. So it was that side of it, and then the other side was once you could actually go back to pubs and restaurants and whatever, they wanted to maintain social distancing and all that sort of stuff. So as a result, QR code menus or NFC menus. A lot of them are kind of both now, where like you have like a little pod in the center of your table, a little disc with a QR code, but it also you can just tap your phone on it.
Well, and also people became more familiar with QR codes, right? Immediately.
Well, that's
especially in the West. But yeah, as you said, the NFC ones. So in Australia, the two major players. I mean, it depends how you frame it, I guess, but we'll just say Australian-born major players are Mr. Yum and Me and You. Me and You, which launched in 2018, they're the pods, right? Like it's got NFC in that you don't necessarily have to scan the QR code on it. You can hold your phone near it and it'll kind of pop up and blah, 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 like send you the link. I feel like that piece of technology is a real pre-COVID. You can kind of tell they were pre-COVID because were I to be starting, and we'll get to it, you basically can. If I were to start one of those businesses now, there's no way you'd go for NFC, like a physical device that has to sit on every single table that costs money to produce and manufacture and go through the R&D of that, and then like some bespoke kind of system. You would 100% just go with like a QR code that you can print off.
See, I disagree, but only because having those little things is like just lock-in. Once a company, like once a restaurant or bar or whatever has invested in having one of your little NFC pods sitting on a table or like all the tables in their restaurant, it'll be much harder for them, not impossible, but like the switching cost for them being like, okay, I'm now going to go with whoever would be higher.
For sure. Right now it would be, but the onboarding at the same time, there's more friction.
That's
like
true. Yeah.
Compared to just like, oh yeah, we'll just send you a bunch of files that you need to print off and stick on the tables for now, and we'll send you some nice cardboard ones in the mail, but you can get going tomorrow if you want, or whatever.
Not true.
But regardless, yes. Don't get me wrong, the Me and You thing was also fantastic timing, right? It's almost like they knew it was coming.
Google Justin Hem's COVID.
But yeah,
thank me later.
And then Mr. Yum, I think was more delivery world, but like also offers the same technology.
Yeah. And a lot of the, as I mentioned before, a lot of pubs going to delivery They also, a lot of them did that through Mr. Yum because it really aggressively pursued pubs and restaurants that just didn't want to be on Uber Eats.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess the question is, there's rumbling that these two major players are investigating a potential merger in Australia. Like everyone else, were highly hyped during COVID. This is the future of how everyone will order food, I guess, like in person, in restaurants, blah, blah, blah. It's a no-brainer. Shovel your money in now. These things are going to be huge. Once we had a new paradigm where interest rates went up a couple % and money was no longer free and now you have to make profit. As I said, like many businesses had to cut staff and obviously their valuations have presumably gone down. They're finding it a lot tougher. And I think people are maybe rightly asking the question, is there a multi-billion dollar business here?
Yeah. First, let's talk about what are actually the advantages of it. So I think it's pretty clear based on what we were talking about that there has been behavioral shifts that have like stuck around after COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to a big pub today, there's a pretty solid chance they'll have these. Not always, but there's a solid chance they're going to have.
And as a consumer, like if I see the Me and You one or whatever, or Square, which we'll get to in a bit, I do know like, I've already got an account with that, so that'll actually be pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know,
and this is like the pitch deck thing once. They onboarded so many people during those times. And like once you onboard someone to Me and You, it becomes relatively easy if they go to any other venue.
Yeah.
Just go, they've got Me and You, great, scan, great, pulls up my app. I've already got my payment details saved.
Yeah, yeah.
I can get a chicken parmy straight away. It's going to land on my table promptly and I won't have to talk to anyone. Amazing. So there's that. The pitch from Me and You and these other companies, as with like any kind of payments intermediation sort of software, is this is better because your customers spend more when they have these.
Yeah. How about you add some chicken nuggets to your chicken parmy? I don't know. I don't eat chicken parmies or nuggets. I just assume that's something you do.
I can't imagine I would have both. But maybe I would because yes, a lot of these, and Me and You certainly does it, really tries to upsell you on stuff that you can add to the meal that you've bought.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's got an upsell flow to it. What about the dessert? You know,
are you ready for another beer? Like that kind of
It's actually pretty impressive now that you put your phone near it and open it and it'll be like just another one, like, and you bang like one tap, like yep,
another beer. Don't tell me twice.
I wasn't going to. I was going to have a click around, but now that you mention it, I feel like another beer.
I do feel like another Young Henry's. So like that's their claim. Like on the headline claim, the Me and You says that they spend 30% more.
30% more. Yeah. That is a very bold claim. It's a huge claim. The people spend 30% more when they order on the Me and You app versus not. I don't know where they get that number from. They don't seem to provide why, but sure.
Look, I can see it making it frictionless. It depends how busy the place is as well. I'm rarely constrained with how many beers I'm drinking because like I finish one, I get the next one.
Yes.
You know, maybe it makes things a bit quicker and smoother. Maybe that's the allegation. Plus like the upselling stuff on your food. You sure you don't want just some sides?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want some pickles? Bang, $3. You're in. So there's that. And then there's obviously like the labor saving part of it as well. The idea being that you can minimize your bar staff to a degree or at least make them more efficient because you can have them focusing on just like taking the food out rather than manning the taps. Or whatever.
Yeah. And people aren't walking away from the back of the line because the line's too long or whatever.
Yeah, totally. We're talking like specifically about pubs because where they appear a lot of the time, but obviously you can get them in all sorts of restaurants.
And probably should mention my understanding is, well, not my understanding, it's just a guess, but like you target the major pubs because they're pub conglomerates. So from a sales perspective, you can sell in quite easily. I mean, it's only one contract to sell into 40 pubs with like Sofitel or whoever, as opposed to finding like individual restaurants, which, there's not that many big restaurant conglomerates. It makes more sense to just target like, okay, if we just target these big pub conglomerates, we can get coverage on 50%.
And one of the biggest investors in Me and You is Justin Hams and Merivale.
Yeah.
So if you go to any Merivale venue, they will have a Me and You on every table. It's rolled out across their whole group.
But this is one thing that I wonder if consumers will kind of have a problem with, though. Like, how do they make their money? They take seemingly around 5%. Again, unclear. They don't advertise on their website how much they take, but it seems like 5% is how much they add to every purchase. But for the most part, it seems like the consumer pays that. Like, at the last second, they just add a transaction fee. And, like, 5% isn't nothing. You are paying, like, you know, if you buy 2 beers for $22, you're paying like $1 or whatever to not have to go to the bar.
Yep.
Dollar's not nothing.
No.
Dollar's a dollar.
No.
That is kind of put onto the consumer, but I guess the market's showing that for the most, maybe like most people don't really care about that.
Well, it's like, the revealed preferences with, we're talking about Woolies self-checkouts or whatever.
Yeah. But it's like paying a little bit more for Woolies self-checkout.
No, that's true. Like, that is true. Although I think I'm talking time savings. Like, people
Yeah.
will queue up to use the self-checkout even if the lanes are wide open.
Yeah,
things
yeah.
Like that. So people really do put a premium on not having to, like, interact with people.
No,
It's
totally.
a sick, sad world we live in.
And also, no one knows the price of beers. That's the thing. Like,
That's true.
Like, the beers could be
Like,
$14
yeah,
or
they could be
$11 or $7. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I don't know how much a beer is supposed to be. Exactly.
Well, there is no. It's not supposed to be anything, and that's why they charge what they want.
Exactly. No, totally. Used to be back in the day that a beer was $5. You get a schooner for $5. And now I wouldn't blink if they charged me $25.
I went to Taylor's Rooftop the other day, and yeah, I think it was $19 for a pint of Stone and Wood, I believe.
That's so much money.
Anyway.
It's outrageous. But, it's within the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Again, sick, sad world.
But yeah, the other thing they offer, though, at the business owner is analytics.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, this is the claim of any sort of payments platform or processor, is they're like, we can give you a bird's eye view of who is spending and where they're spending and what they're doing.
Yeah. Look at your menu like you've never seen it before. Just all these ones and zeros, just giving you intelligence.
Yeah, intelligence. You can find out, hey, people are actually eating a lot of chicken schnitzels. So maybe I should, I don't know, do more with that. So I do find the value proposition a little bit, at least like, I feel like a lot of the stuff it can offer in terms of analytics and data is not radically different to what they're collecting either already through their POS system or
like inventory.
just completely intuitively.
Yeah, yeah.
We can.
It's like, geez, we've sure got a lot of cheese left over.
Yeah. It's like like they tell the Lord Gladstone or something. Your clientele are men aged between 21 and 25. It's like, yeah, I can see.
Yeah, with my eyes. Like, I mean, I guess maybe there's something there for big pub conglomerates to,
Yeah,
I don't know,
totally.
some boffin to get some bird's eye view. But like, as you say, like for the most part, I'm sure that a lot of that data has already been taken. But this kind of leads us to, I guess, a key issue with them, which is differentiation. And I think they use this, like they make that play that, we will provide you with all this intelligence and analysis, and you'll be able to do targeted discounts and this, that, and the other, and personalized newsletters and all this kind of thing to differentiate themselves from each other. Because, as I said earlier, there is something to be said for, like, at the end of the day, if what the product is, especially now, a piece of paper with a QR code that links to a menu with some integrated Stripe checkout, basically, that is not the hardest thing in the world to build. There's not a huge moat around that as like a technological concept, to the point where the pub that we were actually in today uses one that like I'd never heard of.
No, I had never seen it before the first time we went there.
It was called My.
My with two Ys?
Yeah, with 2 Ys. And, good for My. I'm sure that like the fantastic people running it. But they actually started – so My, it's the same thing as all of these things. It's a QR code. You scan – enter your table number. Well, actually, I already knew my table number. Buy, put in a friggin' credit card, it gets delivered. How do you create brand loyalty that is easy for customers and effective for your business? The My App was developed as a centralized platform for all brands to be visible within the customer promotional landscape. And then a quote from a customer. This is the kind of thing that customers be saying. I want to be loyal to the brands I love and use, but it needs to be easier and faster for me.
I'm always saying stuff like that.
Well, My App was created to instigate a paradigm shift in brand loyalty. And then it gives like an example about like, okay, you're a cafe owner. You notice you've got some pastries that are going off tomorrow. Literally, it's like, there's a large selection of close-to-date cakes and pastries expiring tomorrow. So he creates an offer. Buy a coffee and get 1 free piece of cake, limited to the first 100 customers. It actually says fist, 100 customers. Jason limits his offer to a 5-kilometer radius of the cafe to bring in customers not currently on site. This can be either driven by the cafe or the brand. Both have logins. This allows a closer working relationship with brands and venues. As a customer, this is what I want, is an app to be push notifying me that...
Yeah, there's a cafe I've potentially never heard of 4 kilometres away selling some stale cakes. I mean, yeah.
But this company is then obviously pivoted into like, and we'll do the QR code menus. Like it's this It's like ridiculous kind of...
The barrier to entry to this, as you say, is so low. I think that like all you need is like a Stripe backend or like some sort of payment processing backend. You need someone to like build up like the menu software, which again, not super hard. And I've seen some like ugly ones.
Yeah.
Like,
we're basically talking about like a spreadsheet here.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a table,
Yeah. And then you need like some sales and growth guys to just hit up cafes, hit up bars. It's a pretty easy business to get off the ground.
Yeah.
And like you can cobble together from off the shelf parts basically.
Yeah.
And that's like the beauty of it because, well, I mean, actually the opposite, like the horrible ugliness of it is that like you get squeezed by the fact that your only advantage you have is scale.
Yeah.
Like someone like me and you does have a strong advantage because they have Merivale.
Yeah.
And then once they have Merivale, which they already do because Justin Hems is an investor, they can go to like anyone and be like, hey, this is what Merivale uses. This is like the most successful hospitality chain in the country basically. Easy. But like apart from the scale, competitors can come up and basically charge you pennies more than whatever their transaction and exchange fees they're paying to Stripe is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also another business that suffers from like, if you're taking 5% of every transaction, as you said, like they're probably paying about half of that to various payment processors to actually like transact the money. We're talking about a very low margin business here on, sure, like people in Australia spend money in pubs and restaurants. Even so, like I think it's like $60 billion or whatever. But point being, like you're taking a very slim margin of that. You've got heaps of competition because the barrier to entry is really low. And I think almost most importantly, I've been seeing people like Square adding it as a feature. As in your product can be featureized, which is another big concern. Square, the little white square that you see cafes and restaurants or whatever have, the tap to pay square. People know Square, right? Jack Dorsey owned business, and they're having problems themselves for basically the same reason that the percentages they're taking are so low. But regardless, they've just integrated it at places like Rara, where you're just using – there's a QR code and you use Square to pay. And the same thing, like most people have purchased from Square before and they may – and you probably have given your credit card to Square, and so they've saved your details, and you can log in with the SMS and all that kind of thing. And so if like a far more integrated service like Square, which people use as their full point of sale, inventory management, it's their cashier, it's their cash register, blah, 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 can just, again, make it a little feature, it does make it quite tough, especially in a small market like Australia. So, I mean, the big ones, Mr. Yum and me and you, have obviously been trying to expand globally, but this is one of the key issues that global head of Me and You even said, like when they went to expand into the UK, there were 65 other brands already there doing the same thing.
Yeah. As you say, incredibly low barrier to entry. And the difficulty on the other side of the equation, we're talking about like annoying, stupid ways that they expand by being like, actually, we're an analytics and business platform. We're like a general SaaS platform for like hospitality businesses, which, those exist too. The big one in the US is Toast. Toast is kind of like a platform that's quite popular that sort of runs everything for a restaurant or a bar or a hospitality business or whatever.
I mean, Oracle is the one in most of the legacy organizations.
Yeah, exactly. There's Me and You could kind of expand upwards and be like, all right, so we'll just be like the point of sale system for your entire restaurant. Maybe we'll even handle staff scheduling. We'll handle like
invoices for suppliers. And
we'll be a total like vertical SaaS business for the whole thing. They could potentially do that, but then they butt up into a whole bunch of competition. It's like, can we fix our payment thing by becoming our own payment processor? Okay, well, now you're competing with like Square and Stripe and all these other things like that. And then, as I said, from the bottom, you have, this weird stale cakes business that I've never seen in any other bar.
Yeah.
Being like, we will take absolute nothing from you.
And you just need to print it off and put it on your table.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad business because it's kind of like, it's a ticket clipping thing. You can like if you're able to scale and get it in the right number of businesses. Because, we say, yes, Square does offer it, and Rara is, I think, the only place I've been where I've actually seen it. And I see Square terminals everywhere. Like, Square terminals are all over the shop. But I haven't seen their QR code menu that often. Actually, now that I think of it, I have seen it somewhere else. But definitely not. I've seen Me and You in way more places.
Yeah.
So they're clearly doing okay in that regard. So I think for a business like that, it makes sense. Just like, it's hard for me to think of it as being like a blockbuster thing.
Yeah, I think it's yet another one of those companies that, like, it does sound like a good business. It sounds like they've executed it pretty well. Both Me and You and Mr. Yum seem to be doing pretty well as far as like growth and expansion. Unclear whether it's profitable. I think Me and You are claiming they're going to be profitable in 2024. We'll see how that plays out. And now there's this talk of the two biggest players, I guess, in Australia, or biggest independent players, potentially merging. Again, see how that plays out. It's just rumoured at this stage, or like they were talking to investment banks about advising on it. However, yeah, it might be yet another of those businesses that, is this a $100 billion business? Is this something that can get you 100x return on investment as a VC, or is this possibly a nice little business that you just have 200 employees, which is actually quite a lot. That's probably still in expand and growth mode. But, you've got a sales team that goes around and tries to sell these into businesses. You've obviously got a small tech team adding little feature by little feature and making sure everything's still running, integrating with more points of sale systems and earning just like that nice little bit of money. Employees get paid. The owner gets a decent salary, but, is never going to be an explosive growth in a competitive market.
Yeah, good, totally. And for an investor like Johnson Hems and Merivale, they're probably not thinking of it as like a 100x venture investment. They're thinking of it as like, let's invest in this thing where we can like introduce something that our customers want and would be good for our business generally, which is like being able to pay remotely and have stuff delivered to your table. Yeah,
another investor is like Tiro, which is the payments provided, like those ugly FPOS machines. Whenever you see like an ugly FPOS machine,
it's
like
them,
it's them. They're an investor. Again, kind of makes sense. It's like, oh, okay, it's a way of more integrating themselves into the payment process if this is the future of payments and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, from that respect, does Tiger Global, though, we're a Mr. Yum investor.
Yeah. Well, Tiger Global, they came in and swung around for a little bit in like the Australian market and wherever. I mean, now they're facing like serious issues with many of their venture investments, but that's the market in general. But I think one thing is that it's obviously not going away.
No, it probably is the future. Kind of maybe in like expensive restaurants, you'll still get table service and maybe certain pubs will still have the bar for some reasons, but I think the majority of them won't. I'm talking 10 years' time. It does seem to make sense that this is where it's going. But unless someone thinks of something, maybe some kind of like system where the beer just like appears out of like a hole in the table or something like that.
Yeah, imagine if there's kind of like a little hole opens in the middle of your table and like the beer comes out as kind of like just a shimmering liquid. Like not even in a glass.
Not in a glass. Suspended.
But it's kind of suspended in a field.
Like a floating rock.
Like a floating rock, and it sort of like undulates and pulses a bit, and you have to lean forward and kind of slurp it out of the field.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that superconductivity will enable. And this is actually another thing. You know what? One of the other key issues is like people going out less. Like this is an actual thing. Yep. Australians are spending already something apparently like 30% less than they were 2 years ago in restaurants and bars. Like people aren't going out. That's a trend that's like not really, doesn't seem like it's changing, unfortunately.
Well, that's because beers are $19 as you described.
Well, that's true.
I mean, it's
and you can stay at home on the TikTok.
You can stay at home on TikTok and have to deal with inflation. Except bloody likes inflation.
What's that?
I actually don't know.
If you're listening to this, did you know there's another world out there where you get a second episode of Down Round a week?
Yep, it's called Down Round Premium.
That's right, and there's no interruptions.
No interruptions, no ads, 2 episodes a week, including the free one you're getting right now, plus another one.
Yeah, $7 a month. Not a week, a month. Downround.net. Downround.net. Instant access to the whole back catalogue as well. You've got so much to catch up on.
There's so much. Get around it.